If life is a domino effect, what would you say were the first couple of dominoes that fell in your life that have shaped you into the person that's sitting in front of me today?
Oh, geez. Man, the first couple dominoes, I'm not sure how far back to go. Like, I feel like it was really a gradual buildup. Like, I think I just started with, my parents obviously introduced me to other sports, but they definitely pushed soccer a little more harder than like baseball or anything like that. But man, I think some of the biggest domino effect moments were like for soccer wise, where I am at in my career. I think one of them has to be I made God, all the years are kind of blending together, but I made like the region team, the ODP region team, and the 3 years prior, I got rejected like 3 times from the team. I didn't make it. And I went back for like a 3rd time or a 4th time. I'm forgetting how many times I went. But I made the NorCal team. And then we went to like a tournament in Arizona. And then I made the region team. And then we went to Florida to like IMG, and I scored a goal.
Okay.
Yeah. And the coach of that team was actually the coach of Pacific at the
That's
time,
right,
which is Ryan
yeah.
Jordan. And now he's at UCLA. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, all right, like I started kind of feeling myself a little bit. I was like I think I can do this. I can play in college. And because for the longest time, I didn't know if I could play in college because my club we didn't really have a lot of exposure at the time. It's a small club in Berkeley and doesn't even really exist anymore. It kind of merged with another club and has a new name. But so it was kind of one of those moments where like, all right, starting to pick up pace. Like I might actually have a chance to play, maybe D3, maybe D2, maybe D1. Like we'll see how far I can go. And so that was definitely a big domino effect because at that time too, I was like, I might not be able to play soccer and I'll have to do it all in the classroom and find other paths as well. So it's kind of that I think that might be one of the biggest moments.
Was it mostly because of the exposure that you didn't have the confidence of saying, I'll go D1? Because right now it's like you just got drafted 1st round MLS. So it's kind of crazy to think that you weren't even sure if you could play D1.
Yeah, no, I didn't know. I mean, I think in high school, that was where most of my development, I wasn't like, even on my team, I wasn't like the man, like I was kind of like a shy player too. Like I kind of just did my job, worked really hard. And my mom had to like tell me, she's like, you got more than that. Like step up. Like, you don't have to like play 1 touch or 2 touch all the time. Like take someone on, go on the dribble. I was like playing winger at the time too. I was up top. But yeah, so it took till like high school where that developed on the ODP thing. And then my high school soccer team, like I took more of an active leadership role in that team once I got a little older. So then I started to just kind of have fun and play freely. And yeah, so I know it took me a while. I was kind of a late bloomer on the soccer front. So
what was your recruiting process like?
Well, okay. So I started early. So my mom's a college counselor,
Yeah.
and she had me on it at this onset. Like I went to an ID camp when I was like a freshman in high school, like my first one. But so I started reaching out to coaches, like expressing interest because I wanted to keep playing. I want to play for as long as I can, right? And by sophomore year, it was a slow roll. Like I kind of started with like D3 schools, got some interest from them. I was looking at like Claremont McKenna, although I didn't have the the ACT scores to go there, but I looked there. I looked at where else? I was looking at Tufts too. I like Tufts.
D2, right?
They're D3.
Okay.
But yeah, they were crushing it.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're doing now, but they're crushing it.
Couple natties.
Yeah, I think it was Shapiro. Maybe he was there. The coach.
I believe that's the name because he's the coach at BU now.
Yeah. So, But great. I like that program. They were awesome. I was looking at where else was I looking? Puget Sound up in Washington too. But I started kind of getting interest from D3s. But then I also went to some other ID camps. Like I went to like Cal Poly too, and then eventually I got seen at a tournament by the UW coach, Jamie Clark. And this was also after the Pacific coach at the time, Ryan Jordan, like expressed interest. And so my name was kind of getting thrown around a little bit. So Jamie brought me up for an official visit. after I went to his ID camp up in UW, and like they offered me a spot on the team. I was like super excited, and I was almost ready to go. And then Cal, like on the last second, because I went to Cal camps like all the way up until freshman, sophomore year. You know, like the kind of like you could sleep in the dorms, and then you're out there with Kevin Grimes doing the like 1,000 touch drills and stuff out on the turf. But I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go look at other schools. And I got some interest from other schools. And then kind of like the last second junior year, like before I would have committed, they swept in. They're like, why? We want to talk to you. I was like, okay, come by their office. Like, we want you on the team. So I was like, oh, whoa. So, I mean, it was kind of hard to say no. Like, I've been around Cal my whole life, and the school means a lot to me. And it's kind of a family matter too.
Totally.
But yeah, like, I think the one time, I mean, I was close. So Kevin Grimes would come to like some of my high school soccer games. So I think that's where he got to see me a little bit. But
was there anything like specific that you did to differentiate yourself throughout the recruiting process? Obviously, you went to a lot of ID camps.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like ID camps aren't necessarily the move. Like for me, it was send emails.
Oh, yeah. No,
Like-
it was like before ID camps, send the email. After ID camps, follow up with an email, you know, at the ID camps, going up, you know, show you're interested, talk to these coaches. And, but yeah, I went to a bunch because I kind of had to compensate for not being on a team that was, you know, like an academy or an MLS Next Pro team. So, but I feel like by going to these, I got better at them. And they're like tryout settings. So like the first one or two, maybe I didn't like play that well, but by the time I went to a few others, like I was like, okay, like now I kind of have the steps. Like I need to kind of beat out these other guys and show what I can do too. So yeah, no, it's kind of a learning process, and some of those ID camps were tough, long days. So
just out of the whole strategy, you would say definitely like follow up emails, be sending highlight videos, transcripts.
Yeah. The highlight I had.
Like what would be your strategy if you were to advise someone?
I think that would be my 3-pack right there. Highlight video, little resume, maybe a little like cover letter, right? And then emails and ID camps. I think I said emails twice maybe in there, but yeah.
I think it was just the resume and then emails and then ID camps.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. And then the ID camps, again, I played academy. So it was like, I would go to these showcases and tournaments or even games. Like Jake Wilson was going to our games because we would play Galaxy. Yeah. And like half our team was at Galaxy. So he just watched us play Galaxy, and that's how it worked out. But totally, like it's a good compensation for sure.
So yeah, I mean, there weren't really coaches at my club games. I mean, we go to like a tournament, and there was one time we played like an LA Galaxy team down at like Surf or something. And there was like 20 coaches on the sideline. I'm like, okay, like this is our chance. Like we know they're not looking at us, but let's make them look at us. So,
totally.
Yeah.
Something that I'd want to get into, especially later, but just to start, like you mentioned that you were a shy player, and I know you're a shy person overall. Probably like an introvert is the best way to describe it. But then on the field, that changes. And I feel like you've matured it throughout the years. But like, when was the first time you would say that started happening? Was it until college, or like, did you see that in high school as well?
I think in high school too.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think I wouldn't say it's just like a straight line, because I feel like I kind of in high school I built it up, and then college you kind of, you're a freshman coming in, so I kind of went back down. Like, I don't want to like try doing anything crazy on the field, and want to kind of play simple, play smart, just try to get minutes as a freshman. And so I think in high school there was definitely that, like when around sophomore, junior year, I started like, okay, like I can kind of try to take control. I got to play like the positions I wanted to play. I was in the 10 in high school, right?
Yeah.
Like, my coaches now would never let me play there. But it was just so fun. I was having a great time, and I don't know, something kind of clicked. So, and I feel like at Cal, I feel like it's kind of been the same development, where I just feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable, and trying to keep it going on the upswing, every year. So
yeah, I've talked about this recently a lot, but an idea I can't get out of my head is this thing I came up with. Like, me, but one of my best friends from childhood, he has the idea of like work smarter, not harder. And me, I fucking hate that idea. Like, it's like, no, but I'm hearing him out, and then I figured it out this semester. And I think the only shortcut to success is found at the intersection where your strengths can shine the most and you have the least amount of competition. And it's by being yourself, pretty much. Like that's really what it is. Just like stick to what you know, stick to what you love, stick to what you're passionate about, and then do it in a specific niche where nobody else is doing it. And I think something that's interesting in your leadership space is that you aren't a dick. And that sounds like obvious to say, but like there are many people that see leadership as a title. And when it's a title, you can be an asshole. Yeah. And I feel like you're not that. Like, did you ever take the time to like practice it or learn from it or like read anything? Or is it just you being yourself?
Oh, man. Yeah. So what was it? Was it I think it was my sophomore or junior year. And with COVID, it was kind of, I had that weird spring season. But I remember just I was freaked out when I got voted in captain because I did not feel ready at all. You know, I was like, oh shit, like I'm going to have to step up. People are going to be looking to me. But I mean, I knew that I had my boys and that we were in it together and I'll figure it out. You know, like sometimes, like I think it's good to be prepared and good to be, you know, kind of educated. Like I did obviously do a little research. Like there's, especially was it not last year, but the year before, we kind of had a rough season. We didn't win many games, but there's definitely a few times where like, oh shit, like we lost another game. Like, how am I going to motivate the team? You know, like in a team talk, everyone's going to expect me to say something like, what can I say that's going to like, you know, get everyone riled up kind of, or move on from the last defeat, you know, like a bad Stanford loss. You're like, totally. What do you say after that? Right. So it's kind of like, I would watch videos and stuff. I'd look at I would take stuff from other people. I mean, I obviously learned from you. Like I definitely looked up to you and I still look up to you for leadership stuff. I looked up to Christian too. I feel like I had the support, you know? So I feel like you guys kind of helped me go through this. I looked at all the guys, Dylan, Goose, Colin, Ian, like all of them. You take the stuff you think that works, that does well, and you also flag the stuff where you're like, okay, maybe I won't do that. Like maybe he said something that didn't work. Like I'll try to stay away from that. But yeah, no, I feel like I just kind of jumped in, you know, learned by throwing myself in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always better to learn by practice than by theory.
Yeah, I don't like this weekend. So it was Mother's Day this past weekend. I was at my grandma's house and I haven't seen my grandma in a while. And we're just talking. I was kind of giving her the scoop on what's been going on and the good and the bad. And I was telling her about something stupid I did or some mistake I made. And she was just like, good. And I was like, yeah. And then she got up kind of like out of nowhere, walked over to the corner. She has like a little desk area. She picked off this little thing on the wall. It was like a little quote. I know you love your quotes. And it was I think it was Pete Seeger, the American folk singer. I don't know if you know, but it was something like, education is what you get when you read the fine print. Experience is what you get when you don't. And I felt like I got a little bit of both of that because like I didn't have the leadership experience, but I just kind of threw myself in there, you know, got the arm, was wearing the armband, just was learning on the fly, you know? And so but I felt confident because I had you guys with me. So, and I feel like I'm still learning and figuring it out to this day. Like I don't have it all figured out, but that's okay. So
something I've been struggling with a lot, especially in terms of leadership recently, is criticism and just like criticizing others and just like looking at their faults. I don't know why I've been noticing their faults a lot more. And I feel like, again, because of who you are as a person, you're just like so much chiller. And I feel like at least you aren't vocal about it. If anything, maybe you think it, but you're not as vocal. I'm curious, did you ever read The Great Gatsby?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So like that book at face value, right? It's just like this book about a self-made millionaire that's trying to pursue this young, wealthy, like good-looking woman. Like at face value, that's what it is. Yeah. But I've been fascinated about this idea because if you read the whole book and then reread the 2 opening lines, it changes the entire meaning of the story. At least it does for me. So the opening 2 lines of the story read, "In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my head ever since. whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. And I think about that so much. Anytime I'm thinking about like, criticize this person, or like, I didn't like what they did here, I try to remember they haven't had some of the advantages that I've had, or we come from different backgrounds and all these different things. I'm curious, like, how do you avoid it, or how do you do that in your leadership spot, position, title? Just because obviously every guy on the team has different backgrounds, comes from different places, and has different values, motivations, goals even. Yeah. But then you have to throw all these individuals in a team to work together. So how do you manage that?
Oh, man. I mean, first off, what a way to start out a book with The Great Gatsby. That's a great one. The green light across the lake, or is it the bay? I forget.
It's the bay. But the best part about that quote is that it's so true, right? Yeah, but this novel was published in 1925. That's going to be a century old in a couple months.
I know.
And the best part about this, I think what makes it such a classic, is that the lessons have like just stand through time.
Yeah.
They're timeless. They stood the test of time. And that's how you know like how real it is. Yeah. It was published almost a century ago and we're still talking about it. That's totally incredible. But anyways.
But yeah, for the whole criticizing thing and leadership, it's funny because I'll talk to the coaches frequently, and I like talking to Hank too, Henry Falk, the goalkeeper coach, because he gives that kind of like, almost like my mom a little bit, kind of that outside perspective, you know, like he's not out there with Leonard and Jake, like, and Ricky with the, you know, kind of the team, like in training. He's kind of with his goalkeepers. And it's always nice to hear his take on it, because he'll be watching us kind of from a distance, and he always loves the conversation too. But he's told me so many times, he's like, you need to be a dick. Like, you need to get on some of these guys, because he's like, you're a little too nice sometimes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, but I know how some people react to that. And I think it's just mostly about, for me at least, just observing and listening. And I feel like most of the time, you know, like just kind of like a little compliment sandwich, or, you know, just kind of motivating guys, like just giving them confidence. Like, I think that is probably the most effective way, at least in my experience. I mean, I know there's been times where I've reacted well when someone's kind of gotten on my case, when they're like, you know, in your face yelling and telling you like, you're not doing well. And it kind of lights a fire under your ass, and then you go out and play well. But I feel like for the most part, you know, I want to support my team. And I also, selfishly, I want them to like me too as a person. I don't want to, you know, you can get kind of lonely if you're a leader and all you do is yell and yap at people. Like, no one's going to like you. And, you know, you're going to kind of be like isolated from the team. So I've always wanted to be just a guy that, you know, kind of inspires, just kind of like tries to lift people up, like highlight the good things that they're doing on the field. Like whenever like if someone's doing something wrong and does it like a few times and, you know, clearly needs some kind of guidance, like usually the coaches will be the first ones to critique them and get on them. But I like to come in and be like, hey, like, I think you're doing this really well. You know, like you've been really effective in the final third. Maybe like your through balls are looking good, but like, we just need you a little bit faster on the defensive transition, man. Like just to help the team out. Come on, like let's do it. And I feel like that goes a long way, because it's like, you know, you're highlighting the positives, but you're also, you know, kind of telling them what they can do to you know, pick it up. So I that's kind of been my go-to for the most part, but you know, it can change every once in a while too. So
yeah, it's a weird trade-off, because I do think there is some loneliness with the job, and I'm not sure if it's part of the role. I'm not sure if it has to be part of the role, because maybe right now you are the good cop, but maybe the coaches are the bad cops, and maybe that's the relationship you guys have on the team. Yeah. Or maybe there's another teammate now that does play that role. I don't know. But it's interesting, because oftentimes we assume that the leader can't be friends or shouldn't be friends or should be like an asshole or a dick. And not because they're bad people, but because they care about the team so much that they're willing to push everyone to their maximum potential. Like I think of someone like Kobe, and I think he's so misunderstood, or was, obviously never met him, but like from the stories I read or listen to, he cared so much, and that's how he showed it.
Yeah.
Probably not the best way to show it, but he did. Like that's what was being shown through, and I'm just not sure if that's the best approach.
Yeah.
Possible, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think that's kind of how the approach I've taken because of the environment that I'm in, right? If we're going back to dominoes and determinism. But yeah, I mean, the coaches aren't always critiques. I didn't mean it like that. But I think they have more license to critique, and I think they do it more. But also, like, I also have Kevin too, Kevin Carmichael. We have a lot of leaders on the team, but I feel like he balances me out quite a bit because he's a little more loud, a little more vocal, and I'm a little bit kind of, I guess, a little more mellow in comparison to him. So that's kind of where I feel like I've kind of like, that's been my niche, you know, that's my area of leadership, kind of by just like the personal contact, a couple of team talks, but mostly positive reinforcement. And I kind of hate the, like, you know, lead by example thing, but I definitely, like, that's how I got the job, you know, like I wanted to just be a good teammate. Like, I'll carry the balls, I'll move the goals, you know, work my tail off. Like, that's just kind of that's how I was raised in the game. Like, that's what you do. I was the coach's kid, you know, I had to be that. And that's kind of what got me the armband. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep doing that. You know, just got to add a couple more things to it. Got to start, you know, public speaking a little bit in our team group, and got to check in with guys, you know, like make sure everyone's in, you know, good headspace, is confident, feeling good. And so, yeah, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to add, you know, kind of add ways of leading, but yeah.
Outside of the leadership role, when it does come to criticism, because it is genuinely something I've been thinking a lot about, how do you stop yourself, or how do you deal with it? Because I feel like you just aren't someone that's critiquing other people. Maybe you are, and I might just have no clue about it, but you seem as someone that isn't. And I'm curious if it's just part of your personality, or if you have any sort of strategy or something that like comes to mind when you feel that way.
With not critiquing people?
Yeah, like, so, I mean, let's give an example, right? You're on the field and maybe you want to be a good leader or a good teammate, but if somebody fucked up the pass, you know they fucked up the pass. And if they're not performing well, you know that you could easily look to the guy on your right and be like, dude, like, this guy needs to go on the bench. You know, like, you could do that. What do you do in those moments?
I mean, yeah, by looking over and looking at someone else and saying, like, this guy's playing like shit, like, that's not beneficial. That's not going to help the team, you know? And soccer is a game of mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I miss passes, like, shit happens. And I think it's good to jump on it early. Like, if someone misses a pass, like, especially a younger player who might be a little more new, and, you know, they're a little more like concerned about how the coach is watching them, kind of, you know, like a hawk, evaluating their game to see how much minutes they're going to play. I think the best thing to do in that situation is, like, right after they do it, be like, it's okay. Next play. Come on, like, move on. Like, you got to let that go. And I know it's hard because I have a hard time letting go of that stuff. Like, I'm the kind of guy that counts how many mistakes I make during a game. But I don't know. I think also if someone's having a really poor half, like, going up to them, kind of just checking in, being like, hey, what's going on? You know, like, and sometimes they'll receive it well. Sometimes, like, you know, like, I feel like this and this is not working. I'm trying this, like, and then maybe depending on the situation, I might try to help. Like, well, maybe look down the line first. Just let's gain some territory. Like, you know, maybe just focus on completing that first pass. You don't have to think too big or whatever. But sometimes there's definitely times where I've, like, tried to go up and talk to someone. They're like, no, get off of me. Like, you know, because I'm, like, trying to get over their shoulder, and they're like, no, fuck you. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, we'll let them cool off, and, you know, they'll sort it out. So it doesn't work all the time, trying to, like, you know, talk it through. But I think for the most part, people, you know, like, that's what people receive really well, is just kind of a little bit of confidence, a little positive reinforcement, and little subtle critiques kind of, you know, sprinkled in there. Just nothing too crazy or too harsh. That's at least that's how I roll, I guess.
Yeah, and that's outward towards others, but there's also the inward process of what that makes you as a person. Like something, the way I've been dealing with all of this is anytime I find myself wanting to criticize someone for their actions, I instead try to practice some sort of gratitude for the free lesson life has given me of exactly what I don't want to do without having to experience it myself or do it myself. I think about like, oh, I could have done that myself and then regretted it. But instead, life is giving me this free lesson of that's exactly what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And in a way, I feel like that gratitude is just an inward process, even a bit more. So throughout that process of like being a good teammate and person outward, is there like any self-growth inward as a leader even, or is it just like part of the process for you?
I think it's part of the process. I mean, I think gratitude's a big thing. Like, I know you probably talked about that with Jimmel and Oscar. That's at least what we talked about when I was chatting with them. But I think that's a great thing as a player to have is, we can get so caught up in the day-to-day, right? Just the grind that I think taking a moment and being like, this is so cool. Like, I remember I feel like I made it like when I was a freshman, like, cause I didn't have any expectation I was going to play college soccer. Like I was like, I get to go play at Cal. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like everything from here on out is extra. That's kind of how I saw it. Like I already won the lottery. I'm here playing ball with a bunch of guys I like to hang out with. Our practice field has a killer view of the bay. Like it's beautiful up there and the coaches are all awesome. So I think having those moments, and I know we have like Lenny Wyersma, a team wellness and it's like, I don't even know his title. What is it? Mental performance and wellness. Yeah. But like I feel like that's a big part of his job is like kind of little grounding moments, reminding us to be grateful. And I definitely think that's helped me, just like hanging out getting up to GB maybe a little early or staying a little late and just kind of being like, wow, this is cool. Like I get to do this, not everyone gets to do this. So many people want to do this. So yeah, I definitely think inwardly kind of those little gratitude exercises, maybe even if it's like writing down a list of what you're grateful for in the morning. Like I don't do that all the time. I'm not that disciplined, but yeah, I think those are definitely little things kind of inwardly that might help.
In terms of like the anger side to this sort of leadership or so, right? Some people think that anger and violence is like manly, and I think it's the complete opposite, especially in a leadership role. I'd even consider it a weakness rather than a strength, and I feel like you're a great example of that. And there's this one quote, obviously, as you know, I'm going to bring up quotes a lot. Strength is the ability to maintain a hold of oneself. It's being the person who never gets mad, who cannot be rattled, because they are in control of their passions rather than controlled by their passions. And I know like the team, is it blue head versus red head? Is it that like
blue head? Yeah.
So
blue head, red head.
I know it's been like 2 seasons now with Lenny and you guys focus a lot on that specifically. That's just the easy. What's that been like for you guys? Like balancing anger and your emotions as you play?
Yeah, I think that's probably another reason why I kind of fell into a leadership role in the team is because I kind of stay pretty consistent. I don't go get really hot like on the field. I'm vocal. Like I'm very, like I like to communicate, but it's a lot of kind of directions and, just giving information to my teammates typically. Like if someone's ahead of me being like, a couple steps left or drop, you got this man behind you, whatever. Like I think just mostly the kind of organizational stuff on the field. But yeah, I like sometimes I'll get into a little like scuffle, like, like just getting physical with a striker or something and they'll start talking trash but I just always kind of thought it was a waste of time to respond to it. And I always just liked kind of looking at them, just like smiling, just being like kind of, and they would always get kind of weirded out. I'm like, oh yeah, like, I don't care. Like, let's just do it. Like, let's keep playing. Like, I'm having fun. And they're like, oh no, like this is weird.
So you don't talk shit at all?
I don't talk shit. I mean, I'll laugh because some of my teammates will talk shit and it's kind of fun and funny to like listen in, but I don't know. I just never been about that. I don't know. I like when they talk shit and then I just like smack them in a tackle or something, just kind of let, scoreboard, try to play. And, but it's funny because in my last coaches meeting, they commented on that because they're like, well, we kind of want you to get angry every once in a while. Like, we think that might actually like boost the team a little bit. They're like, get a little like get hot headed every now and then, like get angry, get on the field, start talking some shit, like, because that might lift people up and, motivate the team. But I feel like Kevin kind of does that a little bit. So I don't have to do that as much, which is cool. So I don't have to be someone I'm not, like I can just kind of play, do my thing, try to help the team and try to be a silent killer, So that's kind of how I like to play.
I don't think I remember ever hearing you yell or cuss at someone in a like negative way at practice, let alone a game. And that's super interesting. There's this quote by Rumi that says, raise your words, not your voice. It is the rain that grows flowers, not thunder.
Oh, wow.
I read that last summer when I was abroad, and it impacted me so much. And again, I feel like that's the exact response you could give to the coaches, right? Like, improve your words, not the volume of them.
Yeah.
Because that's at the end of the day what's going to make a difference. Like, anybody can yell.
Yeah. No.
But I think for any leader in any position, whether it's a business, a team, whatever setting it may be, I think as soon as a leader starts yelling, you can tell they're in a bad position.
Yeah.
You never want to see a leader yelling. Like, I feel like as soon as you start yelling, that shows some sort of weakness, and it shows that you're not in the best spot possible, because if you were calm or even confident in what's going on, you wouldn't have to do that. And yes, at times you have to get people's attention, but I'm not sure if yelling is necessarily the way.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of do sometimes on the field, or you have to talk loudly, obviously, because sometimes it's noisy out there. You got the fans, and you gotta make, maybe I needed to talk to Eric or nonsense up top. But that's different. I know what you're saying. Yeah. But no, yelling at people, I don't think it's totally necessary. But I agree with you. I
mean, I'm sure though at times you just like, fuck, like I really want, like this kid needs to get his shit together. Like, what do you do then? How do you internalize all of that? Or like, how do you like go of it after a game? Because you don't do it in games, and it's so impressive to me. Because
you think I'm at home just like punching a pillow or something?
I mean, you may like there's this thing Abe Lincoln used to do, and it's called the hot letter approach. And he had this unique thing where when he felt the need to take things out on somebody else, he would instead of like confronting them directly, he would bring out a piece of paper and just jot everything down and like write a letter to them directly, and then give it some time, take some space away from it, put it in a drawer, and never take it out. So he would never send it to them, but he would drop all of his negative energy into that piece of paper, and it's called the hot letter.
Yeah.
And that's how he let go of it. Like, do you have any process similar to that?
It's actually kind of funny. I typically, circling back to the beginning of the conversation, I typically vent to my mom about shit. Like, if I'll see her every once in a while. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month, because my parents are all over the place doing fun shit. And but like if I ever see her, like I'll usually like build pent up, we didn't do this well, like we played terribly yesterday or whatever, like our training wasn't good today, no one really looked like they wanted to be there, like I'll definitely vent to my folks. They're like happy to listen and just kind of let me get it out, because I don't want to take that out on anyone on the team. I don't think that's going to help. I think the times that I've seen people start ripping into each other, like, it's just not healthy, And I think right now we got a really healthy, like, I feel like our team culture is really good, and it's, I feel like everyone's really connected. So I don't know. I think it's good that I have my folks to talk to sometimes, whether it's on the phone or whether it's me having dinner with them one night, like go home, chat with them a little bit, get some of that, stress and angst out. Like, be like, I was pissed the other day. I just didn't like how we played. I didn't like how I played, But I'll start getting a little like you'll see me get mad on the field, but it's typically when I make a mistake. Like I'll I might yell a little bit, but yeah, and I don't like to rip into other people that much.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you say that, because that's exactly the type of thing I was trying to get at. Like, you do need to vent to someone.
Yeah,
and I didn't have the words for it. I didn't know what I was looking for. That's exactly what I was looking for. Like, I would have thought maybe at times for me, it's like writing it down.
Yeah.
Like writing it out.
Yeah, I do that too sometimes. I mean, I don't have like a consistent notebook, but like I do have a couple random journals in my, as an English major, a couple random notebooks that I'll start writing some stuff out, like it's another way to get it out off the chest. And I think you need some kind of, way of doing that. I think it's necessary, regardless if it's sport or whatever you're doing. Like when you're so invested in something and it's not always going to go your way, and like it's so easy to take that kind of anger and frustration off the field. Like I remember being in classes and I won't totally be there because I'm thinking about the game that that past Sunday or something, or the next one coming up, and it just, you need to get it out. So I definitely think whether it's talking to someone about it or writing it down, that's good. But I never think it's good to just, vocally assault someone, especially in front of the team. That's not, I think sometimes if it's really calculated, like I said earlier, like being a dick sometimes, like to get people like riled up, like if everyone's kind of sleepy on the field, be like, hey, let's that I think it's good. But as long as you're in control, as you're in control of what you're saying, and when you've thought it out, then I think that's positive. But other than that, yeah, getting it out, paper, talking to someone, I think that's the move.
Yeah. For now, you are a first round MLS draft pick, a Cal captain, all conference first team, all these things going on. And I think to an extent, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but considering time is a limited resource, I feel like the way we spend it says a lot about who we are. And it's this idea I've been having of trade-offs, right? Of what are we willing to exchange in order to get what we want? And to me, it's, you can have anything you want, but not everything you want. That's why your sacrifices say more about you than your successes ever will. If you truly want to get to know somebody, don't look at what they have and their accomplishments. Look at what they don't have and what they gave up in order to get there. So I just aimed off first round pick, captain, all conference, this and that. But what were you trading off or exchanging in order to get all of these things?
Oh man. It's tough to like kind of reflect on that, because I just feel like I've been doing it, and it's kind of like I didn't think of them as sacrifices, really. Like, and especially being in a community of so many like amazing student athletes. Talk about the people you've had on this podcast, like Elise, like holy shit, like there's so many overachievers that it just became normal. I feel like for me, at least, it's like, dude, you got to step your game up. Like there's so much you can do in that 24 hours. Like you gotta step it up. So I didn't really think of all like the extra stuff I was doing as sacrifices, like whether it be in the classroom studying a little bit more in the library or going out on the field or going for runs. Like that just was kind of, a part of the process for me. It was kind of, and I wasn't really aiming for that necessarily, those awards. Of course I want to succeed and I want to get achievements and stuff. I think everyone does. But for me, it was more about like, I don't know, the process was kind of the best part. Like I enjoy going on runs. I enjoy working hard and, pushing myself. Like that right there is kind of the dream, like I think I have these goals, but I was kind of focused on just doing my thing in the moment, trying to have fun, trying to play, so I don't know how to answer that. I think I didn't really like, all of this was a surprise to me. Like I didn't know I won the award for the D potty. Like everyone else saw it. I was on a run in the hills when I got it, which is kind of funny. My phone was off. And I was like coming back from the fire trail, and like my phone was blowing up. Like everyone was like, congratulations. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on? I think I texted Colin. I think he was the first one. And I was like, what happened? He's like, you like check your phone. I was like, okay. So I started looking. I had to like, couldn't even find it. But yeah, no, it felt good. Like it was kind of a cool thing to have. And, you know, but I wasn't like actively seeking that. I just wanted, you know, I wanted to be a good teammate. I wanted to have fun and push myself every day to get a little better and try to be a better player. So
what motivates you, or is there like a bigger purpose behind playing? Because you don't care about these things, and there's so many people that care about those exact achievements so much, yet they never achieve them. Yeah. And you have them, but you were never looking for them. So like, what's...
I mean, I was obviously like, I do have goals and dreams. Obviously, like I want this season, I want to win the ACC, want to win the NCAA tournament. After that, I want to go into Nashville and ball out and make the first team. And then after that, I want to play really well, make the national team for the 2026 World Cup. Like I have those big dreams and lofty aspirations, but I mean, there's some, like a lot of that, it's not out of reach. It's definitely possible, but it's tough. But there's a bunch of uncontrollables and variables that, you know, along the way. And I feel like looking that far ahead is not necessarily going to be the best thing for me. So I like to just kind of try to make the most of where I'm at, you know, like kind of take it day by day. If I'm feeling good, yeah, I'm going to do a little extra work today, whether it's just 10 more shots on goal, or maybe I'm working on long balls, like 20 long balls after practice. I think all that little stuff adds up, you know, like doing a couple push-ups in the morning. Like maybe you don't rip out 500 push-ups, but you do a couple things, like over time, that stuff adds up. It kind of creates distance and separation from the competition. So I just had that kind of in the back of my mind, but I didn't expect any of the awards, the recent awards. Those are all kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
New things. So.
It's interesting though, because of the sacrifices that you were mentioning, like how they weren't sacrifices to you, because you could have been doing anything else with your time. Like realistically, you could have slept in, or you could have.
I do sleep in.
Obviously, like I'm not saying you're not sleeping, but like you could have been doing other things. Is the point I'm trying to make? Like you totally could have, but you just did it out of fun. Like, or obviously, you know, in the back of your head, it's like, oh, I have to do it, but mostly it's like for fun.
Yeah, but I mean, some days are not. I think like some days are a grind. You know, some days you don't want to get up out of bed, but you're like, I gotta get up out of bed. You know, so like not all of it is rainbows and unicorns. Like I think some days are tough, but I don't know. I think maybe it's partly because of my parents, the team I kind of grew up playing for. Like I like the grind. I like the suffering off the field. You know, I love the fitness. Like I love running and like, you know, falling over afterward and being exhausted and knowing that I just like left it all out there, you know, in the field. I love that feeling. So like it sucks. There's kind of like you know, it's tough. It's physically hard, but I've always kind of grown up like that's something that it's rewarding for me. So yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's all just fun. Like I do think, especially now, there is expectation too from coaches and friends and teammates, like that I have to perform and that I have to, you know, like now I have like the Nashville thing coming up. Like that's something that I have to prepare for as well. And in order to do well, then I need to do well now. Like they're watching me this season. So I have to crush it. And hopefully we can do well in the ACC. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's all just fun, but I think that's definitely the base. You know, like I feel like I have to keep returning to that, you know, like I'm doing this because I love it, you know, not because I have to do it, but I do it because I love the game and all these things outside the game that I kind of have to do to level up. Like that's just a part of the deal. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah. That's the point I'm trying to get to, like that trade-off. And it's, there's this Tim Grover quote that I really like that says, you don't have to love the hard work, but you have to crave the end result so much that the hard work becomes irrelevant. Yeah. And it's interesting. I want to stick on this for a bit because when Elise was here, she brought up this quote, or not even a quote, but just like this advice she got from some mentor of hers. And the advice was, don't do what you love, do what you're good at. And I was like, no, like, I don't like that. Like, no,
Yeah,
no, that doesn't sound
I don't
great.
know how that sits.
But you're saying the complete opposite. You're saying like, I'm following my passions, and by having fun, I just keep on doing it. And I think that's the hack to life in a way. When you find something you care so deeply about, you're just going to continue doing it over and over and over again because you fucking love to do it.
Yeah.
So naturally, you're just going to improve more over time, because like, let's say the 10,000 hour thing, right? Like you need 10,000 hours to become an expert in anything is the idea. And you could do that 10,000 hours. That's a year and a half, but then you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need other things. All right, cool. It could take you 10 years, 15 years, 20, a lifetime, or you could finish it in 3 years if you're obsessed over it, 5 years if you're obsessed over it, 7 if you love it. So I think that's the hack, right? Like I think true happiness in life happens when the process becomes the reward.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what you're saying.
No, and it's so cliche because like it's the journey, not the destination. But I think there's so much truth to that. I think it's definitely about the journey and the company, the people that you surround yourself with. And I think like I want to have good stories to tell. I want, after the end of my soccer career, I want to look back and be like, like you made the most out of that. Like, I don't know what the destination is, where I'll end up in the next couple of years. Like, we'll see what happens. But I want to, whenever that day comes, I know, which is for everyone, there's an expiration date on soccer. You can't do it forever. But I want to look back and be like, yeah, man, I worked my ass off. Like, I had a lot of fun. I met amazing people and got to play the game I love. So yeah, I totally bought into that process, is the reward thing. But
and it's not even like to make it cliche, because I just think you're on the complete hack side of it, of like, you're not even thinking about that. It's not like all sunshine and rainbows of like, oh yeah, the journey, not the destination. It's not even that. You just like, it's like a hamster wheel of like, oh, let me just chase happiness. So I'm just gonna keep on doing it because I'm not chasing happiness. It is happiness while I'm doing it. So you're not chasing anything. It's just like the act in and of itself.
Yeah, totally.
That's interesting. It's also like something I think about often, and some advice I got earlier when I was in my undergrad years was like, say no to things so that then you can say yes to things that matter. But now, and I think this is like what you're saying, is it's not about saying no to things so that then you can say yes to things that matter. It's about finding something you want to say yes to so badly that then you can easily say no to all the things that don't matter. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. I forget who was telling me this, but I think it was, who was it? Regardless, the piece of advice was to open a bunch of doors, keep opening doors, see what you like and see what you don't like, right? Like try new things. So I kind of buy into that. Like whether, if it's trying a new hobby, a new sport, maybe you're a freshman and you're trying to figure out what you want to pursue, like as, through UC Berkeley. Like, I think by trying new things, and even if it blows up in your face or you don't have a good time or you're not enjoying it, you learn something from that. You learn that that's not for you. So I think it's good to put yourself into new situations where you figure out what you like and you figure out what you don't like. So then that becomes a little easier. And you're like, okay, I am going to say no to these things. Like, but I gave them a try. Like I at least kind of looked into them, like I peeked in the door, but yeah, not really for me. Like, I'm going to go down this path, and I found something I like doing. Okay, now it's going to be easier to say no to a couple of these other things, because that's just kind of what you have to do if you want to, go down that road. So yeah, I agree with you. I think a little bit of both, a little bit of looking at the yes, a little bit of looking at the no's.
And it's all trial and error, really. Like what you were saying right now, like the faster you can close the gap between idea and execution, the faster you'll realize whether you care about that thing or not. And as soon as you find the things you care about, it's just like, all right, keep on going until that's no longer the case.
Yeah.
And that could last forever.
It could totally change too. Like I've known so many people that, like, when I first met them, it was like pro soccer, that's it. And I'm like, oh, okay, wow. Like, good for you. Like, that's awesome. But then 4 years go by and they're like, now this is my dream. And I'm like, oh, like, that things can change totally. And that's fine. You can go down a path for however long you like. And if once it's not working, like having the courage to be able to pivot, that's cool too, so I guess that's just being like open-minded, but kind of riding the yeses until either it becomes a no or just going forever, like you said. So
no. On those days though, like when you kind of don't feel like doing it, and I just have this vivid image, and I've texted you about this, and I've been waiting for months to be able to say it in this exact moment. But like, I remember telling people around me, like after watching you work out January 2023, I was like, God damn, like this kid's he's gonna do something different this season. Cause I remember walking into the gym and you were walking out pouring sweat, and I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, I also sweat a lot too.
I know that, but like this time it was like you were drenched, and I'm like, what the hell is Wyatt doing? Like, what is different now? And I remember just like the look in your eyes was just different this time. And I remember telling Tate, and I remember telling my brother and my dad, and I was like, dude, this season's gonna be like insane.
Oh man.
And it's like in those days when you like don't feel like doing it, is it something that was interesting is you were thinking about the benefits? Is that what you do? Like, and I'm talking about like me personally here as well. Sometimes I don't feel like doing something, but I think about, after doing it, I'll feel better. And that like motivates me to do it in the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like when I was a freshman, sophomore, doing the extra, going on runs and doing extra stuff off to the side, I didn't usually like to advertise it. I just kind of wanted it to like show in my game. But more recently, like it's kind of become like a little like people started they started asking me stuff like, oh, what are you doing off the field? I'm like, oh, well, I do this, I do that. But I love that in our gym now we have there's like the eating area where there's like the bear bites, and there's this corner table where our men's soccer players, we're always at this one corner table at bear bites, and it looks right over onto the weight room. And I have like this past semester, I have like time on Mondays and Wednesdays. All my classes were like loaded up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'd have like a good amount of time where I could go to the gym. And I loved it was kind of a leadership thing. I loved going in there and working really hard inside of them just so they could see me working my ass off, and then they're like, oh shit, maybe I might have to level up. So I don't know, that kind of has changed a little bit over time. But in the moment, I mean, I'm always just thinking about like the next rep or the next shuttle. Like if I'm running, it's like, just one more, like just like it's kind of just honed in focus on, whatever the task it is I'm doing. So, but yeah, I don't know. I just, that's kind of, I don't know really why I've always been like that, but I love kind of suffering. I love getting sweat. I love working out. And, I think it's helped my game too. I remember a while ago, I wasn't like when I was younger, like I'm a little bit like compared to soccer players, I'm a little bigger. I don't have as fast feet. So that was all stuff I had to work on. I remember talking to Hank. He's like, well, you have to be the fittest on the field. And I was like, well, why? He's like, well, for a soccer player, you weigh a fair amount. Like, you're going to like, for you to play your best, you're a physical player, like you need to be fit. So I was like, all right, well, that's what I got to do. Like, I got to stay fit. I got to get even fitter because I'll be playing in Nashville soon enough. And that's just another level up. Everyone's going to be lights out quick and super strong and fast. So I don't know. I think it was just like we were saying, this is like the thing I love to do. And if I want to keep doing it, like these are the boxes I got to check off. And if I can kind of have a little fun doing it, and, feel the reward of going for a hard run or lifting weights with you. I remember we were lifting buddies for what was that? Like a spring or something. We would be in the same little platform. And you'd always be lifting some crazy, obscure amount of weight that I couldn't do. Yeah, just kind of loving those little moments too.
Another thing that's interesting to me is you not being on your phone as much or like being disconnected in comparison to other people.
Okay. Yeah.
No, not in a bad way. This is
Yeah.
like out of admiration, right? Like just being disconnected. And the reason I'm admiring it. It's something I applaud, and it's something I trying to do more often now. But the reason I bring this up is I think that it's very true that we're all the average of the 5 people that we're mostly around. But nowadays, I think the inputs also matter. So it's also the 5 people we consume the most, whether that's reading, but also just like on social media or podcasts or whatever it may be, the people you listen to the most, those people affect you so much as well.
Totally.
And I think an issue in today's day and age is definitely that side of social media. Like the first thing you do in the morning is you check your phone, and the last thing you do at night is you check your phone. And it's like all these influences that you let into your head. The best example I can think of is people always asking, like, the first thing in the morning, you wake up, your eyes open, and the very first thing that happens is 100 people walk into your bedroom. How would you feel?
Yeah, just noise, a constant bombardment of your mind.
That's what the phone is. The notifications over and over and over again. Like if you do that first thing in the morning, that's terrible. You're letting all these people in to your bedroom. That sucks. And the reason I bring that up is because, especially after being around guys like you, I've tried to be off my phone so much more. Like my notifications are off. It's always on do not disturb. Like all these little things I've learned, and I just try and stay away from it as much as possible. I remember last year, like a year ago now, Tate and I would wake up early and we would go golf. And it was so nice because it was the first 4 or 5 hours of the day we wouldn't be on our phones, and we were out in nature, and that was it. And then you look at practice. The first thing you do is you wake up, you're off your phone, and you're just in nature playing soccer. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to start. But overall in your day, like what benefits have you seen from that? Because so many people are connected 24/7, and I feel like it messes with you mentally. And to you, I feel like you tend to be happy. You tend to be at peace. And I'm not sure, like, to me, it's like, all right, obviously it has to do with his phone. I'm not sure if there's anything else, but like, do you see a big impact, especially when seeing like other people that you've lived with or that have been around throughout the years?
That's all an act. I'm not happy at all. It's a total facade fair. It's all a ploy. I mean, I'm guilty of being on my phone, looking at it first thing in the morning. I'm guilty of death scrolling too. I do that. Like, I'm definitely, definitely guilty. But I think the one thing that, and I feel like I've kind of had to become more connected as I became a leader too. Like, the coach is like, Wyatt, check your damn phone. Like, we texted you, and I'm like, okay, I got to be a little more on top of it on my phone. But I think for me, it's like when I'm like talking to someone, or if we're, at practice, or if I'm in class, like I'm not on my phone. Like my phone's in my backpack, so it's not about like quantity really necessarily about being on the phone. Cause like I'm on Instagram and soccer shit's coming up, and I'm, I'll start death scrolling for God knows how long. Right. But I feel like when I'm kind of doing something, if I'm in the classroom, like I'm locked in, I'm not checking my phone. I'm not playing video games or whatever. Like I'm there. And if I'm talking to someone, like, if I'm getting coffee with someone or lunch or whatever, like I'm not on my phone. Like, and I think I've been pretty good at that, of like just kind of being relatively present, in those moments. But I mean, if I'm on my phone, there's days I just want to throw it out the window and start breaking stuff, breaking your equipment in here. But, so I'm glad that you think that I'm like total, disconnected though. That's cool. I don't feel like I am. I feel like if anything, I've kind of been using my phone more and more recently, just because there's more responsibilities. I'm kind of taking on more tasks and stuff. So I have to be a little bit more connected. But
well, look, I think being off your phone is definitely a good thing, but completely ignoring it is terrible, because your phone is a great tool. Like to not use your phone is to shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah. It's to put yourself at a disadvantage, right? Like your phone is arguably the most powerful thing that you own. Most people, it's like one of the most powerful tools that they have. Yeah. Because it's like everything in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's like, it's illogical not to use it. Now, with that being said, there's one thing of using it for good things and then just being addicted to it. I think that's the difference. And I mean, I don't think it's bad to be on it. Even if it's like soccer stuff, like you could learn a thing or two just by scrolling social media. But I do think it's bad when you're like addicted and connected to it. Like I'll tell you something, like when I'm getting dinner or coffee with someone, I think my biggest pet peeve when I'm with someone is them being on their phone.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Something I started doing recently is as soon as they start checking their phone while I'm talking, I just stop talking. And it's like, no, keep going. It's like, no, until you're...
Take your time.
Take your time. No rush. Once you're done, I'll continue. Because it's like, I feel disrespected in a sense, but it's also like, I don't want to talk just for you to not listen. I hate when I talk and there's somebody on their phone and then they just look up and it's a blank stare and it was like, I have no idea what this guy said. Yeah. That sucks. It's a terrible feeling. And I mean, it's sad that I'm about to say this, but honestly, one of the reasons that I podcast, there's multiple reasons, but one of the biggest reasons I podcast is because nowadays there's very few settings in which I can convince someone to not be on their phone. Yeah. And this setting, it's so beautiful. The thing I love about podcasting the most is you're so locked into the conversation because the only thing you can hear is your own voice and the guest's voice. The lights kind of create this like blinded by the light feeling. So you're like locked into the conversation and your phones are away. We're not on our phones. There's no notifications, airplane mode. And my phone is like back there and I'm just sitting here and we're talking. And that's what we're doing.
It's a trip. Like, this is weird. Like, it is kind of funny, you know, it's never this quiet. There's always something going on. It's always outside noise. So this is nice.
The happiest moments of my life happen when I'm not on my phone. And that could be on my morning run, when I'm playing golf, when I'm podcasting. Like, yes, your phone is amazing. It's a tool. You should use it. I use it a lot for many things and it's helped me grow so much. But again, theory and practice and practicing life is like being in the moment. And I feel like that's something you do a lot. And so this all stems from this book that recently came out, The Anxious Generation, by this NYU social psychology professor. I believe his name is Jonathan Haidt. And he's writing this book on like the impact that the phone is having specifically on the first generation being impacted by it, which is Gen Z, right? Yeah. And we're seeing the impacts of it now. And like he talks about when Instagram came out, and that was around when the selfie camera came out and the impacts that's had on boys and on girls and like differently and how that's impacting things like mental health and like how we act and all these sorts of things. And in the book, he says that the biggest change from millennials to Gen Z is the childhood. And it used to be play-based childhood, and now it's phone-based childhood.
Oh God, I can't even imagine growing up right now. I mean, like, I know I can't speak for you. I think we both kind of grew up where like phones were kind of like maybe middle school, like iPhones, you know? I think I knew some people in elementary school that had iPhones, but like that was weird. You know, like everyone was just like playing in the yard, you know, after school doing, you know, playing wall ball and Foursquare and, you know, all that stuff. Like, I feel like we got a little window of childhood before that stuff that I definitely look back on with nostalgia a little bit. But like you said, there's a lot of great things that come with phones. And I think it is cool, especially now. I know we were just talking about before we turned the cameras on about like, it's kind of crazy. People like my class is kind of graduated and everyone's moving on to new places, but like, it's kind of cool. You can kind of see what people are up to. It's like, I think it's a little easier to connect with people like, you know, that are moving away. So I think there's definitely those benefits, but yeah, I do like the play-based childhood, man. Like, I think we got a little bit of that, which is nice.
I think that's the benefit from someone like you because you're so outdoorsy, right? You're like going on hikes, if anything. Like, and in your head, it's like, well, I don't do that all the time, but it's more often than most people is the point I'm trying to make. Like, you'll like or enjoy some sort of hike or like some sort of run or different things, going out and play, even like just playing soccer. That's being outside. And it's very, very sadly, while it's normal to you, it's like above average than others. And that's not even like too much of a compliment towards you. It's like sad to see in the world because, and I mean, I'm not an expert on the book, but I would highly recommend the book. He talks about all the negative impacts of how it impacts us as humans growing up right now in our personalities, just like I'm sure you've seen kids, especially here at school, like being socially awkward, or like how do I approach this girl, or how do I do this and that, or like how do I even talk to this person or approach them, or like send an email. And it's like,
and it's the funniest thing too, because like these are the smartest kids in the world, right? Like we go to the #1 public university, but like some guys are like have a really hard time talking to the teacher, like, or asking a question, or I mean, some like I'm not saying everyone, because I've been in so many great classes where the conversations are amazing and people have like these really deep questions that lead to a great conversation. But then there's definitely those that like, like I'm talking to, they won't even make eye contact. You're like, whoa, like it's just wild to me, like you can be so like book smart, but then at the end of the day, you're looking at your phone, like you said, and like you didn't process the thing I just said to you, or even if you did, it was like kind of disrespectful that you didn't even bother to, put it away for 10 seconds and listen. So yeah, no, it's wild. Oh,
camera shut off.
Camera's dead.
That one. Let me just turn it on.
How did you get into leadership? Because I feel like it was so natural for you. Like,
yeah.
Like, I feel like when I was on team, it's like, oh yeah, like he's just kind of like, that's his lane right there. Like you would talk to the team, obviously like some of the off the field stuff too, just organizationally, like you were always on top of that stuff. Like,
yeah, but
how did you, was it learned? Do you feel like you kind of just, that's just what you do? Like how did you get into that?
Totally. I think it's just like part of who I am. Like even at Cal, I wouldn't consider myself much of a leader, if I'm honest, because every single team I played for up to Cal, I was like captain since day one. Like I could completely change coaches, and it was like one practice and it was like, yeah, that's our guy. And then you get to Cal and things obviously shift. And I think my biggest leadership lesson at Cal is that leadership is not a title, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to do. It was just like, all right, what can I offer to the team if I'm not playing, which is something before Cal that I was just not used to at all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot changed for me at Cal, like freshman year, redshirt, sophomore year, COVID, junior year, meniscus tear, senior year, new head coach. Like it was so many different things. And I'm not saying I could have played better, if anything, but I do think my life could have turned out a bit different as a soccer player. Like not anything crazier, but like, I feel like so much went into who I was as a soccer player throughout those first 3 years that like kind of just killed me down as a soccer player, if I'm honest. And I was like, all right, what could I do instead? And I was like, all right, turn to this, like be yourself. Yeah. And it sucked at first. And I think you really got to see more of who I was junior and senior year for me. But yeah, like I it's weird. I don't think I had one single year where it was like, yeah, this is who I am type of thing. Cause I mean, circumstances change and I changed as well, like we were talking about. So yeah, I think that version of myself has just always been there. Like I've always cared, I guess. And obviously I've had to learn. Like I don't believe in the phrase of like leaders are born, not made. No, I think they're totally made. Do you have intrinsic characteristics that help? Totally. Yeah. But I think you definitely have to learn and practice it over and over and over again. But yeah, typically that's who I am.
Combo of nature and nurture, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah. Speaking, like, just to continue on this, like, I think in this idea, and it's like, again, cliche, but this reminds me of you. Wherever you go, there you are. And like, does the outdoors activity, like, does that ever settle you down and like being in the present moment?
Yeah. I mean, well, that's kind of more my dad's side a little bit, because he's, as you know, he's a mountaineer. Like he's a backcountry ski guide. So I spent a bunch of time outside just trying to hang with him and his climbing buddies. And that was kind of like, the outdoors is kind of like your church a little bit. It's kind of, like a little way to get out, get away from everything, kind of reflect where you're at, what you're doing. And so, yeah, it definitely was kind of another way to just kind of take my mind off of the game, you know, because I think it's health. Like, I think you can probably attest to this too. Like, when you're playing, like, you think about soccer all the time off the field too, and, you know, what you need to get better at or the mistakes you might have made. Like, I think about that stuff all the time. So going for a hike or a run or whatever it might be outside, I just like recreating outdoors, you know. I can't ski as much now or mountain bike as much now because of the risk reward ratio, but that kind of stuff was always just a nice out for me growing up. So
Yeah, for me right now, it's like with running, I am so in love with running, mostly because I'm just not on my phone again. But then I don't wear headphones or earphones or anything. It's just like being out in nature. And the difference with soccer is this is totally by myself. And it's like a meditation for me. It's a meditation, just being out there on my own, typically in the morning, sun is rising, and it's just like you, yourself, and your thoughts. And that's it. And that's what I love about running so much. And also about golf, honestly, something I try to do whenever I'm golfing is I just put my phone in my bag and I try not to touch it. Airplane mode, even if I need to. It's just like, get away from that as much as possible. And I feel like, again, outdoors just provides that for you, and the activities there make you feel so present. Like hearing everything, hearing your club hit the ball, or like hearing the birds chirp in the morning. It's just, there's something different about it. And I think what you said, like having it be your church in a way, or like, to me, it's like Sunday church is like, right now it's like a hike or even golf. Like it's just so peaceful. And I mean, with all due respect to any religion, right? Like that's not the point I'm trying to make, but I think any outdoor activity is an active meditation, and that is the best way to do it. Anybody that's playing music or on their phone while they're doing it, like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But like when you're actively there, it's quite literally a meditation.
Yeah, it's therapeutic for sure.
Totally.
I feel like it's necessary for me. Like I need that. I need to do that every now and then, get out.
Since soccer is something so serious to you, how do you find outdoor space just for you?
Outdoor? Oh, well, what do you mean? Like,
so like, I mean, soccer to an extent is starting to become your job.
Yeah.
So like that's going to be different to what it was in the past. Like that relationship is going to change eventually. But now that that's happening and that you have to take it as serious as like a full-time job, because I mean, I know you take it seriously, but now it's like different type of serious. What do you think you'll do to like find your me time outdoors? Is it hiking? Is it
I'm going to do more or less the same kind of stuff. Like I would always go into the hills here, into Tilden Park, and, you know, hike or run. Like I think I'll continue to do that. I'll probably do a little less of the running and more of the hiking and kind of more calmer outdoor activities. I know there's a bunch of like lakes in Nashville, so it'd be cool to get like a stand-up paddleboard or something, you know. But I don't know. I think I'll figure out new little mellow outdoor hobbies I'll try to find. But yeah, maybe because the fitness will probably be taken care of, so I probably don't need to do any extra that might not be as beneficial. But yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Chinese proverb of the farmer and his son?
I don't know. I don't think I have.
All right, I'll read it to you. This is from a blog post from Dr. Marlo Archer. I just found it, but it's a very popular Chinese proverb. It reads, "A farmer and his son had a beloved stallion who helped the family earn a living. One day, the horse ran away, and their neighbors exclaimed, 'Your horse ran away. What terrible luck.' The farmer replied, 'Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see.' A few days later, the horse returned home, leading a few wild mares back to the farm as well. The neighbor shouted out, 'Your horse has returned and brought several horses home with him. What great luck.' The farmer replied, 'Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see.'"
Oh, I like that. That's nice. It's not over. Oh, sorry.
Later that week, the farmer's son was trying to break one of the mares, and she threw him into the ground, breaking his leg. The villagers cried, "Your son broke his leg. What terrible luck." The farmer replied, Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see. A few weeks later, soldiers from the National Army marched through town, recruiting all the able-bodied boys for the army. They did not take the farmer's son, still recovering from his injury. Friends shouted, "Your boy is spared. What tremendous luck." To which the farmer replied, "Maybe so, maybe not. We'll see." The moral of this story is, of course, that no event in and of itself can truly be judged as good, bad, lucky or unlucky, fortunate or unfortunate, but that only time will tell the whole story. Additionally, no one really lives long enough to find out the whole story. So it could be considered a great waste of time to judge minor inconveniences as misfortunes or to invest tons of energy into things that look outstanding on the surface but may not pay off in the end. The wiser thing then is to live life in moderation, keeping as even a temperament as possible, taking all things in stride, whether they originally appear to be good or bad. Life is much more comfortable and comforting if we merely accept what we're given and make the best of our life circumstances. Rather than always having to pass judgment on things and declare them as good or bad, it would be better to just sit back and say, it will be interesting to see what happens. And I think you're that type of guy. Like it'll be interesting to see what happens. And again, I'm really, really curious. Like, how do you do that? Because for me, I think an issue in today's world is we're all trying to be first. We're not trying to be right. Many people today, again, go back social media, this, that, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. Today's culture, one of the biggest issues is we all want to be first. We don't care about being right. And to know the full story, you just have to wait it out. There's so many things going on right now that I don't have to mention specifics, but obviously many things can come to mind. And this is May 2024 as we're recording this. A lot of headlines going on that I'm not going to get into.
Yeah.
And to that, I would say to many of them, wait it out. Like, you don't know the full story. And maybe we will never know the full story. Maybe in our lifetime, like we read history books now and have a completely different perspective to many of the events that have happened historically.
Yeah.
Right now, like, do we need to judge it immediately? I'm not sure. And I feel like, again, I've fallen into that trap before of judge immediately. Oh, that's good or that's bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Even some of like the current events, which again, not trying to go there, but like several months ago, this country had a certain sense, and now it's all over the place on many multiple things, right? But the point I'm trying to get to is like things change fast. Totally. So why have an opinion on them? Is that good? Is that bad? I'm not sure. And I feel like part of your disconnection that I really do admire, I'm not even making fun of it. Like I think it's when, like, I think to myself, like, that's something I want to do with my life. How do you manage to just like have no opinion at times or like be disconnected from it? Do you just like fully disconnect, or do you?
I mean, I do have opinions on current events, obviously. But just as far as if we're just talking generally, I think there's a great scene. You probably watched Ted Lasso, right? I haven't watched the second season. I still need to watch the second season, but I know, I'm so sorry. I know that's brutal, right? But there's that, I think it was like close to the end where he's playing darts, and he said, then he talked about, there was like a little mural he saw and says like, don't be judgmental, be curious. And I love that. I was like, that's so great, because like you said, there's so like a lot of people are quick to judge, quick to point fingers, quick to make assumptions or generalizations about someone or a conflict or a situation, that they stop being curious. They stop, investigating for themselves. Like, I think it's so important to do a little bit of your own research, obviously like listen to people and get different sides of a story, listen to different perspectives, while also definitely while also making your own, staying, you want to kind of stay true to yourself, but you also want to be open to modifying your stance on something. So I love that line though. I thought it was so great. I mean, there's so many killer one-liners in that series. I feel like every episode, he's just like the awesome coach right there. But I really like that one, being curious and not judgmental. And I kind of also associate those two. I feel like curiousness is kind of synonymous with like patience, right? And judgment is a little bit quick. Like I feel like people like when I think of judgment, I think of people like making like snap of the finger, like, oh yeah, I don't like this person, or I don't like this, or I think that's bad, I think that's good. Whereas curious is like looking at it, it's like, okay, like I notice my first, assumption. Like I notice it. I'm able to like see it. Let me like put it off to the side. Let me not like vocalize it or like, like start talking about it, but let's just like put it over here and let's investigate a little bit and kind of start looking at it maybe from other perspectives, and then we can develop our opinion. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming when there's, especially in, the world and social media too, where there's so many different voices and, not a lot of listening too, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that's our biggest issue, when we stop listening to each other. And that could be on any topic possible. Yeah. As soon as we stop listening to each other and we just care about being right, that's when the most harm can be done.
Totally.
There's I think the best part about this is that it definitely brings some sort of peace when walking around life, like being curious and not judgmental. It makes you happier. But I also think it could even be a stance of power, because you are protecting your thoughts or even opinions and intentions in the long run, because you're not vocalizing them. By vocalizing them, immediately you will be put in categories by other people or whoever happens to listen to it.
Yeah.
But by protecting it in a way, that's also a power stance.
Oh, totally.
To play with in the long run.
Yeah, I also think if we're going to like pivot back to soccer a little bit, as far as leadership, I think there is power in being kind of quiet and reserved. Like I think there is some kind of respect. I think people are kind of drawn to that too. So I like to like sometimes, in team talk, like just there's some days I don't need to say anything. Like maybe I don't have anything to really say. Like we're doing a killer job. Like I don't need to like add more to it. Like I'll have another opportunity to speak to the team. Like I can just like sit, like let someone else, take the reins. Like maybe someone's feeling it. Maybe an underclassman's stepping up right now. Like I don't want to stomp on their parade. Like, so I think, yeah, it's important to speak freely, speak your mind. But yeah, I do think sometimes just taking a step back and, kind of observing can be kind of a smart move.
There's this quote from Meditations with Marcus Aurelius that I really like that says, "We have the power to hold no opinion about a thing and to not let it upset us or our state of mind, for things have no natural power to shape our judgments." And I do think in leadership, it happens to be that way, where you could just step back and you could just not have any sort of judgment in the moment, and letting others step up to the plate is something I hadn't even considered. And is that like something you guys have been doing more recently? Because I know back in my days,
back in the old days,
there was definitely this divide between upper and underclassmen, right? And is that something you guys have been practicing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, I don't want to say hierarchy or division, but there's definitely like up older and younger, and like there's definitely classes, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. But that's definitely something I've been talking about. I think I talked about it a couple of times with Lenny. I had a couple of meetings with Lenny Wyersma, and I had a couple of meetings with the coaches, and we talk about, we want to be a team full of leaders. And I think that's very important, because I think everyone can have leadership moments. And for me, being kind of one of the, at least the last 2 or 3 years now, being one of the leaders, like main leaders on the team, I'm trying to do a better job at recognizing moments when someone else is, stepping up or doing something, and like not trying to like dominate that, so kind of like giving some space for other people to also lead. And of course, you don't want like a team full of leaders yelling at each other, and it's kind of a clusterfuck. But I think it's good to, kind of give everyone opportunities to, provide like their perspective, their voice. And I feel like everyone brings something a little different to the table, and it's all beneficial. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, still learning, because sometimes you don't want to be too in the back seat. Like, I don't want to be reserved all the time. Like, I feel like I have to be consistently, like talking to people and, getting the word across. But yeah, I feel like I'm constantly figuring it out, trying to learn every day. But yeah,
I don't even know if I included it in here. But yeah, there's like some sort of, oh yeah, it actually is right here. One of the most powerful things you can do as a human being in our hyper-connected 24/7 media world is saying, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. It's embarrassing. Like, guys come to me all the time and like, Wyatt, like this is all. I don't want to dog on my coaches, but sometimes we're a little disorganized on the team, and like we don't know what field we are on the morning of that training. They're like, Wyatt, like, are we at GB? Are we at Maxwell? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. Like, for some reason, my phone's not working in the training room of HBC because it's a bunker, and our coaches haven't updated us. I'm just kind of crossing my fingers that we get, if I find out, I'll let you know. But I've had to say I don't know a lot, and it sucks. But it's better than like fabricating an answer, like misleading someone, And I think it's okay. It's okay not to know, but you still want to be on top of it. Like, if you don't know, like, let's work to figure it out, So
It's like totally okay to say I don't know, because by not admitting that, you will just create this entire lie around something. And it's like, dude, out of pride, you're doing that out of pride. You're going to make shit up on the spot out of pride. Why don't you just admit that you don't know? And that's okay. Many people don't know things. Everyone doesn't know something. I think one of my favorite things, like one of the favorite lessons I've learned, and it continues to show up in my life over and over and over again, is every single person you'll ever meet knows something that you don't know.
Yeah.
And then again, the more you know, the more you realize how little you know. As soon as you continue to learn, as soon as you continue to meet more people, you'll realize how ignorant you are in some sort of area of your life. And that's beautiful, because if that weren't the case, what would this be about?
Right. If you knew everything, then like, all right, cool.
And what's
like,
the point?
I do think, you definitely learn something from everyone. I think that's how I like to look at it too. Like, you can learn something new from everyone. And, I feel like you said, someone knows a little more about something than you do. And I think that's like a good, like, humbling meditation. I think is totally necessary. So yeah, I definitely try to apply that a little bit, but it's hard. It's tough.
One of the things that caught my attention earlier on in this conversation is when I was bringing up all these achievements that you had, something that you said is like, you weren't looking for it directly. You were just focused on the process. The process became the reward, all these different things. And something that I'm curious about is what you consider to be enough, right? And to tie it all together, or to explain what I mean, there's this great little poem by an author talking about another author. It's Kurt Vonnegut talking about Joseph Heller, and it reads, Joseph Heller, an important and funny writer, now dead, and I were at a party given by a billionaire on Shelter Island. I said, Joe, how does it make you feel to know that our host only yesterday made more money than your novel Catch-22 has earned in its entire history? And Joe said, I've got something he can never have. And I said, what on earth could that be, Joe? And Joe said, the knowledge that I've got enough.
Yeah, damn. I think you've told me that one before. I think we've talked. That's such a good one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good to be ambitious. I think it's good to have, kind of far-fetched dreams and stuff. But I do think, I think I said it earlier a little bit too. Like, coming to college, I felt like I made it. I didn't think I could do this, and now I get to do this. I get to play the sport that I love. And I think for me, that was a moment where it was like this. It's already more than enough, And I think I definitely had moments where I was feeling the pressure from my teammates, from my coaches, the expectation, like, oh, you need to do all this. And I've definitely had those moments where it's a little overwhelming. But then I've had like, I think it was my dad the other day, is like, you know, kind of like everyone needs to hear, like, you're enough, man. Like you're enough. Like, I'm proud of you, you know, and they're like, oh, kind of hits. But, I think for me, at least, I try to keep my head, you know, straight like that. Try to think like that I am enough, even though it's so easy to kind of default to like, no, it's not good enough yet. You're not playing well enough. There's so much room to improve. And I definitely have those thoughts, but you know, I try to remind myself that, like, you know, you're playing the sport you love. You're with a lot of people that you love hanging around. You got good coaches. You got a kick-ass school, you know, like you're enjoying school. Like I go to classes and I like my classes. That's a big deal. So I feel like that's more than enough. That's more than I could ever ask for. So I have to keep reminding myself that all the time, because it is, you know, you can get bogged down with like my right foot shot is not like, it needs to be better, like, or whatever maybe my air game, like my heading, you know, that needs to be better. So yeah, I think it's a cool quote. I like that one.
There's another quote from Epictetus in Discourses.
Lay him on.
This one reads, "It is quite impossible to unite happiness with a yearning for what we don't have. Happiness has all that it wants, and resembling the well-fed, there shouldn't be hunger or thirst." And I think the whole idea behind that, it's this quote is from Daily Stoic, which is a book I read every single day. It's a 1 page a day type of book. And this one says, "I'll be happy when I graduate," we tell ourselves. "I'll be happy when I get this promotion, when this diet pays off, when I have the money that my parents never had." Conditional happiness is what psychologists call this kind of thinking. Like the horizon, you can walk for miles and miles and never reach it. You won't even get any closer. They ruin your chance at happiness here and now. Locate the yearning for more, better, someday, and see it for what it is, the enemy of your contentment. Choose it or your happiness. As Epictetus says, the two are not compatible. And I think it's so easy to fall into that trap, right? But it goes back, and I'm dead serious when I'm saying this. It impacted me so much, that earlier thing, because what I consider the happiness circle to be like the one key to happiness in life is when the process becomes the reward, because you're just doing the thing because you love the thing. What better thing is there to do in your life? Whether it's like podcasting and I love it. If I get to do that for the rest of my life, it's like, well, I'm just going to do it because I love it. I don't do it for the views. If I did it for the views, I would have quit a long time ago. In the same way that you didn't do soccer for money or for a contract, because you've never been paid in your life for a contract. Like It's these things where it's like, you just do the thing because you love it. And the more often we can put ourselves in that position, I feel like the happier we can be. But it's just so interesting to me how you are one of those case studies of like, when you can focus on the purpose of why you're doing the things that you do, it'll pay off better in the long run. Because at times, sure, there are people that find success in an area of their life, even if they don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's not happiness, you know? And I feel like when you can match happiness with pursuit, it's an infinite game, as Simon Sinek calls it. Like, you will continue playing the game over and over and over again, because like the happiness circle says, you'll just keep on playing it. No achievement will be able to stop you, because you're not doing it for the recognition. You're not doing it for the achievements. You're doing it because you love it. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I was still a little hung up on that quote you said way early on. I think it was Elise's quote, to like, do what you're good at, not what you love, or something like that. And I think we've kind of definitely made a point that we love like being in love with the process seems to be kind of a great way to happiness. But for me, doesn't like for soccer, I feel like that has been kind of my trajectory. That's kind of been that's my kind of perspective on it is, you know, enjoy the moment, try to be present, you know, love the process. But I would say that for like academically, I kind of like, so I'm an English major, and I know you might have wanted to talk about writing a little bit too, and that kind of stuff, but I was not good at that. like I sucked at that. And like, so I think I told you already that I have learning challenges. I'm dyslexic, and I was lucky enough that my parents were able to catch it on early, like when I was in first or second grade and whatnot. But like, I absolutely struggled with that. Like I was not good at that. So this is almost like arguing with the quote, that past quote, do what you're good at, not what you love. But I didn't even love writing, and I wasn't good at writing, but I somehow went down a path. Now that's what I'm studying, which I think is kind of funny. Like I did it so much to get good at it because I felt like I had to catch up with everyone, that I ended up kind of enjoying it, which is weird. I kind of want to wonder what you think about that. Like, is that just strange? Because I think doing what you love is important, and loving what you do is important too. But like, doing what you're good at is important. But in that case, I wasn't good at it and I didn't love it, but now I like it, and now I'm getting good at it. So I know that sounds like an absolute mouthful, but what do you think about that?
You don't have to love the hard work. You just have to crave the end result to the point that the hard work becomes irrelevant. And in the process, you will end up loving the hard work because it'll give you the validation at the end. That's why I love these quotes, because, and it's a quote I already mentioned previously in this conversation. Yeah. The reason I love quotes so much is because it's an easy fix. It's an easy reminder. Again, any time that I feel like criticizing someone, I remember not everyone in this world has had the same advantages that you've had immediately. Yeah, totally. And it's happened so many times. You have no idea. Like, you know how Berkeley can get at times. And true story, walking down with Christian Gomez after we recorded, we're walking on the streets, and a guy literally approaches us and says things that I cannot say on the mic to our faces. Sure. And my immediate reaction in my head was that. Yeah. Like that thought of not everyone in this world has had the same advantages that you've had. What did we do? We just walked away. Yeah. That's simple. And it sucked in the moment. And you could tell like neither of us enjoyed it because it sucked. But you just walk away. You get called things and it's like, all right, you just walk away. And that's the reason I love quotes, because immediately it's like a problem solver for any situation that comes into my life. Point I'm trying to make is that's exactly my solution for that. Like, what was your end result there? What did you crave so badly to catch up with everybody else? Yeah. You didn't like the work. You didn't enjoy it, but you did it anyways to catch up. You craved the end result. Yeah. And then you did it over and over and over again. Then you realize, oh, you know what? I kind of like it now. And that's all that matters. Like for me, right now with running, at first you don't love it, but you crave the end result of getting fit, getting in shape, all these things. So, and then you do it enough times that eventually it's like, this isn't too bad. This is actually quite nice. Oh, if I take this route, it's actually pretty fun. If I take these gels on my run, this is actually pretty cool. If I run in these shoes, that feels nice. If I run at this time, incredible. You just find ways to make it fun in the process because you do it over and over and over again, that you find what you like and you avoid what you don't. And I think the biggest issue and the reason people don't do this is because they give up halfway through. You could have easily given up on writing. Your parents could have not cared. Realistically, like that's a real thing.
I was so lucky that I had them in the support system in place to overcome that challenge academically, but yeah, I don't know if I could have quit. I think I would have had to rough through years of school and English classes, but I wouldn't have been good at it,
Sadly, I know a lot of people that have. Yeah. Like very, very realistically, they gave up in elementary school and literally illiterate because of it. Like very realistically, like these kids that went on to college and like cheated their way through the entire time and are still struggling with spelling, like the difference in where, and where.
Oh yeah. Well, I know that very well. I still have my spelling moments or brain farts.
You are and you're. And it's like, because they didn't work on it to this day, they don't know. And again, sad, but that's like in the learning challenge space. But look at it with anything else, really. It's like immediately, oh, that's hard, so I'm not going to do it. But it's like if you do it enough times, you will find something that you like. And the more you can stick to that, the more you'll do it. And that happens with running, that happens with lifting, that could happen with any hobby in your life. Could be even reading. I don't like reading. All right, what don't you like about it? All right, maybe I didn't like nonfiction. All right, try fiction then.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I actually really like this author. Stick to that author. Like one of the biggest rules in reading that people don't apply typically is they think they have to finish the book. You don't have to finish the book. If you don't like the book, put it down. Pick up another one. Stick to what you like. Follow your own curiosity. And when you crave that end result, the work becomes irrelevant. I think that's the key. And eventually, you repeat it so many times that odds are you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well said. Well said. Oh, I agree.
On the end, you were mentioning the end of your soccer career and how you know that one day will be the last day, and maybe you'll know in the moment, maybe you won't, but you have to make the best of it up until then. Do you ever consider things like the memento mori, like all these little reminders of like this will end, whether that's like life or like soccer or graduation? Like, do you get motivated by the end? What's your approach with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about it all the time, but I definitely think reminding yourself that there's an end, whether if we're going to get like really philosophical and talk about life, you know, I think or soccer, I think it does create a sense of urgency and like a little bit of motivation to let's capitalize on, you know, the moment, you know, try to make the most out of that training session. Like, if you're going to show up and put the boots on, like, you know, work hard, have fun, you know, play your artist. Otherwise, you know, because I don't want to look back on it and say like, oh man, I could have done this, I could have done that. So I do think knowing that there's an end and maybe reflecting on it or meditating on it, I think that's a good thing. Obviously you don't want to do that too much and like get all bummed out that it's going to come to an end. But yeah, I think that's good.
I think the only way to not get bummed out by thinking so much about it is by taking action. Realistically, like you could get bummed out. You could get bummed out and be all sad about it. But if you act on it, you won't be as bummed out, you know, like that. And that's the whole point. Like, I don't know. To me, I wanted to ask this badly because to me, it's my biggest motivating factor. Like I think about the end so often, like not taking things for granted and just being like, yeah, that'll leave if you don't like. Yeah. Eventually it's going to be gone.
Man, the graduation just happened today. That was a big end for a lot of people. And like saying goodbye to a bunch of people, you're like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to see them again. Like, that's pretty sad. But it makes it so that 4 years, like you knew, like I was going to be in college or if you're doing a master's or a PhD, we can talk about that later. But you're like, you know, if you're an awesome badass like Fernando Andrade, but like you have that 4 years with these people in an amazing place, you know, learning and growing as a person. It's like you have that little window of being here in Berkeley. Like, so, and you know, it's going to come to end. So like, you know, maximize. I mean, and then obviously those life's pretty long and there's going to be other adventures and stuff. But I think knowing those ends can be motivating and can definitely push you to like you said, to take action, to live it up, try new things. And yeah, so I agree.
To me, it's nice, something like graduation, because it does represent some sort of like tiny death. And it makes you realize like, what's the worst that could have happened? Like that person is gone now. And I always wanted to tell them about this or hang out with them or like reach out. And I never did. And it's like, it shows you that you would much rather try and fail than not try at all and regret that. And these tiny deaths, whether that be graduation, retirement from soccer, like something I think about soccer wise so often is, wow, in the moment I thought that was so serious, trying that pass, trying that shot. And now I look back on it and it's like, fuck, I should have tried it.
Yeah, right.
Totally. And it's like in the moment you think it's so serious, but when you look back at it, it's like, I would much rather try and find out than not try at all and always imagine what could have been. To me, that's a terrible way to live. And that's why nowadays, anytime I feel an impulse, I will act on it almost immediately. Obviously, if it's stupid, I won't do it. But if you feel the need to be vulnerable, if you feel the need to let someone know what you truly feel, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Like I love this quote from a movie that says, if you haven't tried, you haven't lived. And I think without it, it's like, to an extent, the end gives life meaning. You know, if you didn't have an end, it wouldn't matter. A 90-minute game. If it weren't 90 minutes, would the score even matter?
Oh yeah, the game would get boring, right? People would be like, what's the point? I think totally at the end, I want to be someone that has stories. And I think in order to have stories, you have to, like you say, take action, take chances, take calculated risks, you know, put yourself out there, make mistakes, do some stupid stuff too. Like I want to have, like, that's why I love writing. I love I love reading stories and stuff, like, but I want to have stories to tell, like, and how, you know, have a fulfilling life. Right. So I totally agree. I think knowing that there's an end can definitely give you a little kick in the rear and push you.
No risk, no story.
No risk, no story. Yeah. So
awesome, man. Well, that's all I have for you today. Anything I missed? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, man. I love talking to you. I know it's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great excuse.
I feel like the last time we were talking about, we were like in the Haas Pavilion watching gymnastics or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is sadly too long, in my opinion.
I know, that was like weeks ago.
Yeah. We should do this more often, whether it's on or off. But I really enjoyed this, and I appreciate this a lot because, like I said, it's like locked in, no phones, no gymnastics is nice, but like
I know there's a lot of noise in that, but just here, you know, it's super nice, and yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. It was a blast. I really enjoyed it, and I genuinely learned a lot. I know at first maybe you thought I was like making fun about the disconnected stuff, but I think about that so often of like, fuck, like maybe it's like a grass is always greener type of thing, but it's like, I want to be like that disconnected, that like happy and things like that. And maybe in Cabo, maybe that's where it stems from. I'm not sure if it was like from there that I was like, oh, you were just like in the moment, just chilling.
I'm like, don't say everything about Cabo.
I mean, by this point, I'll cut it off. But yeah.
I was like, oh no, here we go. I mean, we were responsible. We're responsible people.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll cut it off there before we say any dumb shit.